So I think it's about time I sell the Range Rover. So why am I thinking about selling it? Well, I've had it 9 years now. I've never owned a car as long as I've owned the Range Rover Sport. And I think that is, you know, it's testament to how good the car's been. There's been no reason to sell it. It's just been such a reliable car. Now, I know forums say otherwise about the Range Rover Sport, but I guess that is the nature of forums, isn't it? When you join a forum, you don't join it just to go, ooh, I bought a Range Rover. You generally join one because you got something wrong with it and you're searching for a solution. So I think it's almost a given that most forums for not just Range Rovers but every car, pretty much you're going to have loads of negative comments because people are searching for solutions to, you know, issues with whatever's gone wrong with it. That put me off a little bit when I first joined the forum. I thought, oh my god, what, you know, I've had the car for years and never had any issues, and I thought I'd just join one, you know, why not, I'll be sociable. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, why has everyone got these problems with the Rangies? There's not an issue in mine. What's going on? For me, it's been reliable. I wouldn't say it's been any less reliable than any other car I've owned, and yeah, I'd say I've spent pretty much the same as what I would have on other cars when they go wrong. Obviously the B7 RS4, that was a pig when that went wrong. That cost like £5 grand because it spat its dummy out and all the oil cooler and the suspension decided to break as soon as he heard me say I was going to sell it. But you know, ultimately that's what you get with older sports cars, isn't it? So what do I love about the Rangie for the 9 years? I guess it's just that it does everything so well. It's big, it's very luxurious, it's quiet. Now it's been tuned by Empire Tuning, and I've made a few little tweaks to it, dropped the suspension, put the bigger wheels on it. It handles remarkably good for a big bus, and it's relatively economical, it's safe, it just does everything perfectly well. And I think as well, the shape of it, for me anyway, I think it's aged remarkably well. Time has been very kind to it, and I still don't like the facelift model so much. I don't mind the SVR, who wouldn't, but other than that, I don't really like the 2014, I think it was, when they did the facelift. I still prefer the older one. Once you got the Autobiography Kit on it, and in my opinion, you know, slightly lower, bigger wheels, I just think it suits the car and it's aged very well. What I've hated about it, I suppose, you know, with any luxury cars, is the running costs. When things go wrong, it is pretty expensive, to be fair, but luckily many things, you know, haven't really gone wrong with the car. But you have to remember that when you buy a car like that, you're buying basically like a 80-90 grand car still, in terms of the running costs. Obviously it's depreciated, but it still costs a lot to run, so it comes with the territory. If you buy a Range Rover, whatever age, don't expect it to be cheap. You just have to swallow the bills. And someone commented on one of my other videos the other day saying how, oh, you should expect big bills, you know, why not get a Honda? I've got a Honda, it's a 20-something-year-old car, cost me peanuts to run, and that's it. I've got no issue with that. I mean, ultimately everyone's different. If you want to buy a little Honda or a Citroen or something and it's 20 years old and you don't want the running costs, then fair play. There's no issue or anything wrong with that. But everyone's different, and that's the beauty of free will, isn't it? You know, I chose to buy a Range Rover. I accepted it's going to be expensive to run, in the same way that he didn't want those running costs, so he bought a cheap car. Everyone's different, aren't they? I do think that might have something to do with why people moan that they're expensive to run and that they break down. I think a lot of people, you know, they're not that expensive to buy now. A lot of people buy into them without realizing that they still cost a small fortune to run. Then they'll maybe try and cut corners, or just not maintain them, or put cheap ditch finder tires on them, and you know, suddenly find they've got a car that's a bit of a lemon, and it keeps breaking down. If you were going to buy one, spend the most you can afford to spend. Look for the very best example, one that's been maintained. And just my little tip is, look at what tires on the vehicle. Every time I've ever bought a vehicle, I always go and look at the tires, the brand of the tires. If it's, say, Michelin or Pirelli or one of the big brands, there's a very good chance that the previous owner has looked after the vehicle well. They haven't cut corners, quite literally on the four corners. If you find it's like Accelera tires or another equally cheap budget brand, I would think twice, because that would then make me think, well, if they've spent a quarter on the tyres, then what have they done with the maintenance of the vehicle? So that's just my little tip for buying a Range Rover. Always look at the tyres first. One thing I think has been very good is that the Range Rovers have now reached pretty much the bottom of their depreciation curve. They're not going to lose much more, I feel. The only thing I think is going to make them drop any more is by packing the miles on. I don't do many miles in mine because I have a few cars. If anything, used car prices have gone up because of all the lockdowns. It's just a big demand now. So that also has played into our hands a little bit. So when we sell it, obviously we'll lose money because Ranges do love a bit of depreciation. But with used car prices on the up currently, that has definitely offset a little bit of what we've lost on it. So it's really onto what is a suitable replacement now. Anyone that follows the channel will know that I have a penchant for performance cars. I've always loved them. I had a B7 RS4 prior to the Range Rover. It's a long time ago now. So I do still love the V8s. We don't necessarily need anything that big anymore because we've got the Defender. But we would still like it to have, say, 4 doors. E90 M3s, I haven't owned one of them before, and I just love the layout of them. The 4-door rear-wheel drive V8 4.whatever litre. It's just a nice car. So quite tempted to look at them, and they're pretty rare as well. So I don't think if we manage to find a decent one, I would lose anything on that. If anything, that would go up in value. I do like the C7 RS6 as well. It's obviously a bigger car, slightly higher running costs. The C8, I love one of them, but they're just crazy expensive. And me personally, I would never buy a brand new car in my current position because you lose so much money on the initial depreciation when you take it off the forecourt. So I'd always be looking at least 3 years old or more. With a C7 RS6, I'll probably be looking at maybe 2014, maybe a facelift 2015 if I could stretch to that. But for the miles we do, it's still a lot of money, and that's where an E90 M3 might kind of come in quite nicely, because they're still reasonable money. Bit of a curveball. I love the original Range Rover. They're just beautiful. Rust buckets though, and they're getting expensive. Safety as well. Obviously, Defender's not really safe in that sense, but they're just lovely, aren't they? The original Range Rovers. Going back to the RS6, you've got the E63 estate. A little bit granddaddy, I don't know. The C63 is lovely. Quite like one of them. Again, the estate. Or I could just be sensible / stupid and buy like a 5 Series diesel, but it has no appeal. I don't like normal cars. Why? We don't need to have a normal car. Why would we? Likewise, I've got no interest in EVs. I couldn't imagine the range anxiety you get. Like, we've got parents that live down on the south coast, and driving 70-80 miles down there and back, just having to worry, thinking like, what do we need to do if we suddenly need to go and just park up and plug it in and wait 45 minutes or an hour just to get enough juice, or whatever you want to call it, back in the battery to complete the journey. And something I've always wondered is, what if you've got people already using those recharges? Do you then have to wait for them to finish, and then so that's another hour before you can go? Just the infrastructure, the network isn't suitable yet. When it is, maybe I'll look at it, but until then, V8s all the way. I don't know if you would like to recommend some suggestions in the comments below. I'm lost really. There's so many nice cars of that era, the E90 era, and slightly newer out there still that I'd love to try. I just think I've had the Range so long. Like I said, I love it. There's nothing wrong with it, but just, yeah, variety's the spice of life, isn't it? I want to try something different. So anyway, that is it for today. It was just a short video just to give you a bit of an update. You probably will be seeing a change here soon, not to the Defender obviously, but to the Range Rover. And if you want to see what's going to turn up, please consider subscribing. Drop a comment if you're new to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.